Thank you for
You're welcome.
uh, let me come back on. So, Eric, you know me,
I know
and
you very well. And I know your husband. Don't
you
ask me
know my
again.
husband. Yes,
Even my husband.
so anyway, Eric. So, like the last caller said, I think a lot of times what people have issue with is government is so big and they buy so much, kind of narrowing what you want to do because you can get like the what do you call it, the shiny object syndrome,
Exactly.
and this makes money, this makes money, this makes money. So anyway, so we really had to like narrow ourselves down a little bit.
Yep.
So I have a couple questions. So my target that I want to do, I'm really going after the HHS space,
Yep.
CDC, NIH, CMS, all that stuff.
Yep.
So my strategy is because obviously I'm not in that space, is to target primes
Yep.
and small primes to be a sub.
Yep.
So I want to make sure when I'm targeting them, I have an effective strategy, and I'm having meaningful conversation. So how do I find out what issues they're having, so that way, or how I can fit in to become a sub and help solve their problems? Because I don't
Have you looked
know.
at GAO reports?
Yes, I have. And
And
so I don't
no
know if I
HHS?
should be looking at the issues that agency is having.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, or as opposed to, have you found anything on there for HHS? I'm sure there's something on there for HHS.
Because I think the GAO, I've looked at, and I might be getting confused. I looked at strategy reports. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. I looked at strategy reports. I looked at budgets that have come out, and I believe I looked at the GAO reports. And I think the GAO report, doesn't it talk about where they're lacking, that industry is lacking?
Yeah, and where they haven't done things correctly.
Okay,
Let's see.
that's right. Yes, I did look at that.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you see anything in here that stood out?
Um, I don't remember, but I'm gonna go back and take a look. I did look at it, but I don't remember anything that stood out. I'm sure
Yeah.
it does because they're what I'm offering is marketing communication and around health
Oh,
and all that stuff.
fine.
So of course they have issues with that, especially
HHS DLD look, transition vaccine responsibilities to HHS, but need to address outstanding issues.
yep.
Um, let's see. Hold on. Operation Warp Speed. Let's see.
Hold on, Eric. I'll be right back.
All right. All right. While she's So for everyone who's not familiar, GAO essentially go and look up issues that some of the federal agencies are making missteps, and so this government accountability offices, and literally you can go on here and find areas where they're recommending that the government or that particular agency can make improvements. And so this is a great opportunity for you to learn about, like, okay, rapid and field requirements. So look, rapid prototyping and fielding requires changes to oversight and development approaches. So they're giving you recommendations that the government's having within these agencies of how to solve these outstanding issues.
Okay.
The one I was showing Stephanie was, again, HHS. This was there's some outstanding issues here, but I didn't read the report to see what they are.
Yep.
Let's see.
Okay. So I'll go back to look
So
at
look,
that.
still finding staffing plans based on resource requested in 2023 budget. They just know that further updates. So let's see. They should develop and implement workforce strategies to address workforce needs as part of this transition. So look, they're not addressing workforce needs here. They should have some mechanism, such through interagency agreement, support and development workforce, best practices, lessons learned from stakeholders. Um, and by the way, Stephanie, I do have someone um, at HHS that actually she's a student of ours that was looking at solving some issues there as well. So we've got somebody that we can introduce you to that may can help you with helping you devise your strategy.
Yes, that'll be great because because they have so many strong
No, HHS
primes.
is huge.
Yes,
HHS is huge. So
it's
you gotta get
huge.
down like HHS to me is like saying Navy.
Right, but that's why I said I'm really focusing on the CDC because I'm
Okay.
here in Atlanta and they're here in Atlanta. So I figured that would be my first stop because they're local pretty much. And they have a ton of events where I'm able to meet a lot of the CDC officers and small business reps. But I was so, but I didn't think I was ready to prime. So I figured
No,
let me,
no, and again, you don't have to prime, right?
right.
So Again, look at the CDC, same thing. Uh,
But I
HCC
guess
website
I
of research involving pathogens. I guarantee there's stuff that you can talk to folks at the CDC. If you can go to the CDC, I would just talk to them directly. I found out talking to some of the major primes at the WeBank conference,
yeah.
they literally told me that they were falling short on some of their, and again, this is corporate companies, they were falling short on their diversity and inclusion requirements because some of their major subs were acquired by private equity firms. And
Wow.
so I literally just went up to them. I'm like, hey, can you tell me like what are some of the areas that you're not meeting your diversity and inclusion requirements? I just straight up asked them. And they're like, well, we need this, we need that, because a lot of their diverse vendors, as they grow larger, are being acquired by these private equity companies.
Hmm.
And so now they lose that diversity status. And so the corporation is struggling trying to fill that need. So I would imagine CDC, there's some people there that stakeholders to CDC that are aware of some of the issues that they have. You just got to, talk to them and some of those events.
Okay.
They'll tell you.
So so
Like people that we know that work at some of these places tell us like some of the issues that they're having internally.
I mean, Eric, I feel like I hear that, but then it's so hard to kind of break through, right? Because then it's like,
Have you been to an event and spoken to somebody at the CDC yet?
yeah, so they had an event. I joined NCMA and they
Yep.
had the CDC there and they have another event where they're going to do matchmaking and I'm hoping I can get
Okay. And at
matched
the
up
first
with.
event, what happened?
Well, I spoke with, I think her name was Gwendolyn. So I spoke with her. I emailed her a few times and I actually spoke with her. And I spoke with one of the contracting officers. And of course, they wanted to know if I was on, what is it,
Whatever. One of
their
their vehicles.
schedule? One of their
Yeah.
vehicles, yes. And I'm not. And I'm not ready to be. So then I feel like, well, maybe I can't be a prime because
No,
I'm
no, no,
not
no,
on
no,
their
no.
vehicle.
That's just them asking you a question. That doesn't eliminate you.
Okay. Well, I guess that's what I thought.
That's what we see. We're all sabotaging ourselves in our head.
Right. Because they just made it seem like we only buy from the schedule, we only buy from the schedule. And I'm
But
like,
let me ask you this: you know how to do your research. If you had done your research, you could have proved that otherwise.
yeah. I mean, I knew that there were some, but it seemed like that was their preferred way. Because when I spoke with
But
the
but not when
with
you spoke with them. When you did the research, what did the research say?
I mean, there were a lot of people who were winning that did have that schedule, but there were some that didn't either.
So
But
what is that? 50-50? Is it 70-30?
I would say it was probably about, I would say maybe like maybe 60% had the schedule, maybe
Okay.
40% didn't. So it's
So,
still
yeah,
opportunity.
right. So then on the 40%, what kind of companies are on that?
They're smaller companies.
Okay. So then those are the
So
opportunities that you want. So you want the non-scheduled opportunities. So I would talk to them about that. Say, hey, I got this list of all these, opportunities that are not on schedule. Who should I be talking to about those?
okay, the opportunity that
Like
aren't
I'm a
scheduled.
direct person. So
Yeah.
y'all think these people are like Jesus or something. I don't
I mean,
know.
because when
I'll
they
be like,
show you
look,
this is how I
no,
want to
but
buy, you're
well, I
like,
give my information. So like
yeah,
I don't need like so for everyone out here listening, the more prepared you are, the better you're gonna be equipped to have conversation with these folks. Right? Because
yeah,
I also, to me, and I've said this to you, Stephanie, that the people that you're dealing with don't necessarily know everything. So you can't assume that like they know all the information.
okay,
So like maybe that person is new to the agency and they just learn like that's all they know how. And if you show them some more information, like, well, look, based on my research, only about 60% of your stuff goes to the schedule. So how do we get this other stuff?
okay,
And I just had the same conversation with Randy today on a construction project for NAVFAC. I've got sole source contracts with NAVFAC, and I learned about it, okay, because I pulled down this forecast sheet for NAVFAC, and my friend that's coming up soon, Patel, in a minute, she wants this information. I already know it. She's in construction, but Michigan. So on this sheet, I noticed that they were giving out single award contracts, sole source to companies. And so when I met with the people, this is what I talked about. I don't go there. I don't go places empty-handed and let people just dictate to me what the conversation.
Okay.
That's the biggest difference, Stephanie, that you learn about me. I don't go places empty-handed and like, okay, tell me what you have. I'd be like, look, okay, this is the information that I see. Let's talk about this stuff. My stuff be circle. I'm like, hey, how do we talk about this?
Talk the
See,
highlighted areas. Let's talk about those.
this is what I take to my meeting. Like, hey, I want to talk about this.
Yeah. Okay.
But then they're not talking about no schedule. Like, no.
Gotcha.
So the next time you go to CDC, get your research, pull
Gotcha.
down the stuff that you want to talk about, and then
Okay.
say, how do we talk about that?
Okay. So
Thank you
Eric,
for seeing me.
okay, I have that piece. So my next piece is going after the primes.
Sure.
So my thought was, we're not going after those big primes, right? That's probably gonna be hard to infiltrate. Those smaller primes that are winning maybe between $5 and $10 million. How do I have like a knowledgeable conversation to
So
them?
every prime has an SBLO. The major primes has SBLO, Small Business Liaison Officers. And for everyone, and again, this is why I like people coming on the show so we can talk about these questions. So every prime has an SBLO, which is Small Business Liaison Officer, which is the same as a small business specialist for the government, right? And for example, here, all right, most people I know, and I know y'all gonna complain, I can't listen to all your podcasts, but episode 146 right here, Susan Thibodeau is a contract small business champion. She is what's called a small business liaison officer. So she works, oh, I'm sorry, it's a little bit unclear. Okay. So she works for the major primes, and she is the equivalent of an OSTABU, but for major primes.
Okay.
So when you're reaching out to these primes, ask for the small business program manager, the small business liaison officer, because these primes are also required to have subcontracting plans. This is part of their process. So they have these people that are there to help you. You just have to know to ask for them. So, or if you have done your research on that prime, you might have already found this person like Susan. Go back and listen to this episode and listen to the kind of stuff that Susan's asking for from small businesses like ourselves. She tells you exactly what she's looking for. So you don't knock yourself out from the bigger companies because they do have requirements that they have to meet.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Eric, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So when I'm asking for the SBLO, am I
Yep.
reaching out to that prime and
Yes.
asking them who their SBLO is?
Or you can look online and see if they have an SBLO if it's somewhere public. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I would definitely, yes, you'll be asking for the SBLO for the prime.
Gotcha. And then once I talk to them, they'll be able to kind of talk
They'll
to
be
you
able to
about
help
what.
you. Yeah. They'll
Gotcha.
be able to help you. They're going to help you. So, and that's for everyone's edification. The small business liaison officer is the equivalent of a small business professional, which is like what I wear on my shirt, OSTABU. They're the same thing for the agencies. They're the same thing over on the corporate side for companies.
Okay. And
That's
Eric,
good.
last question. Could you do the reverse? Can you reach out to the SBLO first and then tell them what you're
Yeah, of
interested in
course.
doing? And they can say, you can say, can you recommend me to a prime
Oh,
that might
no.
fit what I'm doing?
Say that again.
Can you reach out to the just any, like you find an SBLO officer
Yep.
and then you say, this is what my business offers. Can you connect me with a prime that may match what I'm offering that I may be able to potentially sub for?
No, I
No.
would like what Alan said. Find out their mission first.
Gotcha.
You got it, because that's one thing that pisses them off is you don't know what they buy.
Gotcha. Okay. So I need to find that specific
You need to find out their
SBLO
mission and what they. Yeah.
that's
Right.
working with primes that are doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, because you said you're doing CDC.
Yeah.
So like I said, if you're doing CDC and then you got the primes from CDC and then you're targeting certain services, that prime, you've already done that research.
Okay.
So it doesn't really, to go and ask them what do they buy, kind of like doesn't make any sense.
Gotcha. So go to that prime and ask them who their SBL officer. That way I know that SBL officer is talking to who is buying what I'm selling.
Correct. And look what Rick Graham just did. He gave you a list of all the small business contracts over at HSS, which
Okay.
hopefully you should have found that on your own. But thank you, Rick Graham. That's my man.
Eric, I know how to do research.
I know you do. I'm just saying, let's put on there.
I know how to do research.
I said that. I didn't look. This is for everybody else watching.
because
Okay.
I've just been pulling so much research. I've been putting the strategy, the budget,
I know.
all
I
this
know
stuff. I'm
you're
trying to
you're
make it
overthinking
make
stuff.
sense.
Right. No,
So,
trust me, I've spent a lot of time on research. Like that's my life, I feel like. I promise you. People
right.
don't it's but that's what I do. That's what you have to do to have these competent conversations with folks.
Right. But I just feel like I don't want to, I have to do action now. I feel like I've done
No, no,
so,
no,
I
you
don't
need to do
want to
some
get,
action. Yes.
right. I've been bogged down in research trying to like put all these pivot tables together and who's doing this, and who's winning, and what next go. So now I feel like I have to have a strategy to actually talk to people, but I want to talk to
Sure.
them and have a meaningful conversation. So I want to make sure I'm kind of following the right steps.
Hey, I love it. Trust me. I'm
All
here.
right.
That's why we're here. Look, I took a nap today, so I got good energy.
I
I,
can tell.
time for
Eric,
some
on that
cabbage for dinner. I was
one
great.
of the last calls, it was last week. You was talking tough. You was telling people off.
Oh,
I love that. I love that, Eric.
oh, you like
Eric is
that, Eric?
telling
There?
people off.
Yeah, you like that, Eric? There. I
I
know. I
love
know.
that, Eric.
I know. I have to. I have to get into that mode. Yeah, you're
I
like
was
Eric
like,
has a lot of stuff on his mind today. I was
I
like,
was like, Eric is cranky today, and he is telling folks off.
because I'm so
But
again.
I loved it though.
Thank you. Good. I'm happy. You loved it. I'm gonna. I'll work on it more.